Chosen one. You did not arrive here by accident. Heaven orchestrated this moment with precision, drawing you into a divine appointment, marked on the timelines of eternity. Anointed one, you are standing at the threshold of a supernatural shift, a spiritual earthquake that carries the weight of a coming wealth transfer reserved for those God has set apart. What's stirring in your spirit right now is confirmation, not imagination. For it is written that God gives power to create wealth, and that power is awakening in you. Breathe, chosen one. The atmosphere is shifting. Heaven is opening. Your breakthrough is already in motion. Chosen one, look around you. You can feel it, can't you? The air around you has changed. The world beneath your feet is trembling in ways your spirit has sensed long before your mind found language for it. What once felt stable now shakes. What once felt familiar now feels distant. The foundations you trusted for years are cracking, and the values that raised entire generations are being mocked in the open. Truth has become optional. Honor has become negotiable. Reverence has become rare. It feels as though the fabric of society is fraying one thread at a time. But hear me clearly, anointed one. This is not random chaos. This is not a world spiraling out of control. This is prophecy unfolding in real time. Heaven warned of a day when people would be consumed by distraction, when spiritual hunger would be masked by entertainment, when entire nations would drift into confusion and call it progress. And you, chosen one, were not only born to witness this hour, you were born to stand in it. I remember a moment years ago sitting alone at a kitchen table long before sunrise. For no reason I could explain, a strange heaviness sat in my chest. It wasn't fear, it wasn't sadness, it was awareness. Something was shifting beneath the surface of the world, and though I couldn't see it, I felt it in the deepest part of my spirit. A whisper stirred through me, not a voice in the room, but in the soul. Pay attention. Something is changing. I did not understand it then. But now, seeing what is unfolding, I understand. Heaven was preparing me for a shaking. And, chosen one, that same stirring is happening in you now, because heaven is preparing you too. You see people rushing through their days, as if nothing is happening, scrolling endlessly, numbing their spirits while starving their souls. They chase wealth while their homes fall apart. They worship celebrities while ignoring their creator. They build their lives on spiritual sand, then wonder why everything collapses when the wind blows. But you, yes, you feel something different. You sense the tension in the atmosphere. You discern the storm forming behind the scenes. You feel the tremors of a world being reordered, even when you try to brush the feeling aside. Chosen one. The shaking is real, but the shaking is not meant to destroy you. It is meant to position you. While the world falls apart, heaven falls into place. While systems collapse, purposes awaken. While people panic, the anointed prepare. A house built on sand breaks in the storm, but a house built on the rock stands firm. The world's collapse is not a sign that God has abandoned the earth. It is evidence that God is rearranging it. Everything is shifting to reveal who is standing on solid ground and who has been trusting in sinking sand. I know what hidden seasons feel like. I know the ache of wondering whether the years you lost will ever matter. I know what it's like to walk through rooms feeling unseen, to give everything you have while receiving nothing back, to wonder if the pain has any purpose at all. But looking back, I can tell you those seasons were not wasted. They were weaponry. Every tear watered something heaven was growing in secret. Every disappointment redirected you. Every no protected you. Every delay positioned you. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared. Chosen one, heaven has been shaping you in silence. You learned to stand when no one was cheering. You learned to pray when no one was listening. You learned to survive storms that should have broken you. And now you carry something the world desperately needs: endurance, purity, wisdom, discernment, and a fire that refuses to go out. You didn't earn this fire. You were forged in it. This is why the pressure has increased. This is why your old circles no longer fit. This is why your desires have changed. Your priorities have shifted. Your spirit has grown hungrier. You are being called higher, pulled deeper, stretched wider. You cannot walk into your next season with the mindset of your old season. And heaven is asking you gently but firmly to choose. Will you return to comfort, or will you step into consecration? Will you cling to what is familiar, or will you surrender to what is divine? Will you remain lukewarm, or will you burn, chosen one? Heaven is calling your name with urgency. The shaking you see in the world is not the end. It is the preparation for your beginning. Everything you've lived through has led to this moment. Every battle, every wound, every silent night, every whispered prayer has brought you to the edge of your divine appointment. And heaven is asking you one question: are you ready to rise? Chosen one, lean in, because what I'm about to speak into your spirit is not information, it is impartation. The shaking around you is only the surface. The real battle, the real stirring, the real transition has been happening inside you. And whether you fully realize it or not, heaven has been preparing you for a moment of unprecedented alignment. You have felt it, the quiet pull away from certain people, the sudden discomfort with places you once tolerated, the sharp discernment that now rises inside you at the slightest hint of dishonor or deception. This is not you being sensitive. This is you being awakened. The separation you've experienced is not cruelty, it is consecration. Heaven has been pulling you out of atmospheres that cannot carry where you're going. Think back. Remember how certain friendships dissolved without explanation, how some family members became distant, how environments you once loved suddenly felt heavy, almost suffocating. It was never rejection, it was recognition. The light in you began to grow, and everything that could not stand under that light had to fall away. There were moments when you felt abandoned, moments when you questioned your own worth, moments when you wondered, why am I the one who is always misunderstood? Why do people pull back the moment I get serious about my calling? But chosen one, hear this truth in your spirit. The closer you step toward destiny, the more your presence exposes the shadows around you. You didn't lose people. They lost access. They saw the fire rising in you, fire. They could not control fire. They could not manipulate fire that made their compromise burn. And instead of rising with you, they removed themselves from what confronted them. This is why conversations began to feel shallow. This is why you struggled to engage in things you once entertained. This is why your spirit grew frustrated with anything lukewarm. Heaven has been stripping you from everything that dilutes the anointing on your life. Chosen one. Many people want God, but not the parts of Him that require change, not the parts that demand sacrifice, not the parts that call for purity, not the parts that confront comfort. But you were built to burn. You were built to rise. You were built to carry something weighty, and that weight has made you different your whole life. Think about it. Even as a child, you felt things deeply. You could sense the tension in a room before anyone said a word. You could see the truth behind people's smiles. Your heart broke for others in ways you didn't know how to express. You weren't dramatic, you were discerning. You weren't overreacting, you were spiritually sensitive. Heaven tuned your spirit long before you understood what the tuning was for. There were seasons when you felt too much, too intense, too passionate, too emotional, too spiritual. But that was never a flaw, it was evidence. Evidence that you were never meant to blend in with the world around you. Evidence that your spirit was wired for something higher. Evidence that you were set apart before you ever took your first breath. Chosen one. Your sensitivity is not instability, it is spiritual intelligence. Your discomfort is not weakness, it is divine resistance. Your isolation is not loneliness, it is spiritual alignment. Heaven has been pulling you out of the middle so you can stand at the forefront. And yes, it has cost you. You've lost relationships that once felt unbreakable. You've grieved connections that you thought would last forever. You've shed tears over people who outgrew you or who refused to grow with you. But, hear me, elevation always demands separation. Oil and water don't mix. Light and shadow can't coexist. Fire and comfort cannot occupy the same space. You are not being punished, you are being purified. Your life is becoming a spiritual mirror, reflecting things people don't want to see about themselves. And because of this, not everyone can walk close to you. Chosen one. God is drawing a line in your life, a holy line, a protective line, a refining line. You may not have understood it while you were going through it, but you feel the difference now. You feel sharper, bolder, clearer, more sensitive to the voice of the Spirit, more disgusted by compromise, more in tune with heaven's movement. This is not coincidence. This is not emotional change. This is transformation. And the truth is, you could never go back even if you tried. You're not the same person you were 6 months ago, 1 year ago, 5 years ago. Your spirit has grown. Your discernment has matured. Your fire has intensified. Chosen one, you are being repositioned by heaven. And the separation you've endured is not the end of your story, it is the doorway into your assignment. Because what comes next is not for the lukewarm, not for the fearful, not for the distracted. What comes next requires a heart that is willing to burn. And chosen one, yours is already on fire. Chosen one. There is something heaven needs you to understand in this moment, and it will shift the way you see everything you have endured. The people who walked away, the conversations that suddenly dried up, the relationships that dissolved without warning, none of it was random. None of it was accidental. None of it was your failure. You didn't lose anything. You were preserved. The very distance that broke your heart was the distance that protected your spirit. Because if certain people had stayed, they would have drained your oil, muffled your calling, or pulled you backward right when heaven was trying to push you forward. Anointed one, listen closely. You were never meant to be surrounded by everyone. You were meant to be surrounded by the right ones, the ones who nourish your faith, respect your calling, and speak life into your future. And when heaven identifies someone who cannot go where you are going, God does not wait for permission to remove them. You may have cried over the ending, but heaven rejoiced over the protection. You may have begged for closure, but heaven was giving you separation. You may have tried to revive what was dying, but heaven was burying what would have suffocated your destiny. There is a spiritual principle many never learn. When God begins to elevate you, He isolates you first, not to punish you, but to detox you. To detox your mind from validation, to detox your heart from distraction, to detox your spirit from voices that were shaping your identity more than His voice was. I know it doesn't feel holy when it is happening. I know it doesn't feel spiritual when you're the one left out, misunderstood, ignored, or forgotten. But heaven never isolates without purpose. The wilderness is always the classroom of the anointed. Think back. Chosen one. How many times did you feel like you were standing alone? How many nights did you pray and hear nothing but silence? How many moments did you wonder if you had done something wrong because everyone who once understood you suddenly no longer could? But if you look deeper, you'll notice something sacred. Though people grew distant, God came closer. Though voices fell silent, revelation grew louder. Though relationships ended, discernment sharpened. Though the room emptied, your spirit filled. You were not losing the world, you were gaining heaven. Chosen one. I want to tell you something deeply personal, something from my own journey. There was a season when I felt abandoned by people I loved most. Friends stopped answering. Family grew distant. People who once supported me suddenly acted like they couldn't recognize who I was becoming. I thought I was losing everything. But then, in the quiet, in the loneliness, in the moments when I felt most cut off, that was when God spoke the clearest. That was when I felt Him drawing me, shaping me, refining me. What I thought was rejection was actually redirection. What I thought was the end was actually the beginning of my assignment. Once I stepped into the next season, I realized why no one else could come with me. The space was reserved only for me and God. Your story mirrors this chosen one. You didn't imagine the tension. You didn't imagine the shift. You didn't imagine the spiritual friction in the air. You were outgrowing environments that could not expand with you. You were carrying revelation too heavy for shallow relationships. You were becoming too sharp for dull company. You were stepping into too much discernment for people who preferred comfort over conviction. And because heaven knew who you were becoming, heaven had to adjust who stood around you. Chosen one. It's time you stop grieving what God rescued you from. You didn't lose people. Heaven removed access. You didn't lose friendships. Heaven protected your anointing. You didn't lose opportunities. Heaven shut the door so your destiny wouldn't be delayed. And if heaven closed it, you don't want it back. Now hear this, the separation was never the destination. It was the preparation. The quiet season is ending. The hidden season is lifting. And the very isolation that once felt like a grave is now becoming the birthplace of your next assignment. You are emerging stronger, clearer, more focused, more purified, and more aligned than ever before. Chosen one. Now we must speak about a weight you have carried quietly for years, the weight of those you love who drifted far from the light, the prodigals, the ones whose absence felt like a wound that never fully healed. You have prayed for them until your voice trembled. You have cried until your tears ran dry. You have whispered their names in the dark while the world slept, hoping heaven was listening. And in those moments of deep ache, you wondered if your prayers were ricocheting off the ceiling. But hear me with your spirit, not your ears. Heaven heard every whisper. Not one prayer evaporated. Not one tear was wasted. Not one moment of intercession went unnoticed. Anointed one. The reason your heart breaks the way it does is because you carry the mantle of restoration. You were chosen to stand in the gap, to hold the line, to intercede when others gave up. You were chosen to be the lighthouse for your bloodline, the spiritual watchtower whose glow reaches into the darkest waters. While others in your family slept spiritually, you remained awake. While others drifted, you stood. While others surrendered to despair, you chose hope, even when hope felt like a lie. That is why heaven trusts you with this burden, because you were faithful in the silence. I want you to remember this. The prodigal son did not return because he finally had good sense. He returned because something awakened in him, something he could not explain, something that pulled him home like a magnet, and that something, chosen one, was the echo of his father's prayers. The foundation laid before he ever left, the love that marked him before rebellion overshadowed him. Your prodigals are marked the same way. They may be far, but they are not lost. They may be stubborn, but they are not forsaken. They may be drowning in the world, but not beyond the reach of grace. You think they aren't listening, yet watch how their heart softens in unexpected moments. Watch how they recall words you spoke years ago. Watch how they find themselves praying in the dark, even though they claim not to believe. The signs are subtle because heaven works in the invisible long before it manifests in the seen. But mark this, something is shifting in them even now. Their rebellion is cracking, their defenses are weakening, their heart is beginning to remember home. Chosen one, your prayers have been tilled into the soil of their destiny. I once knew a woman who prayed for her child every night, sometimes with nothing more than a whisper, sometimes with nothing left but tears. For years she saw no movement, no change, no evidence. But what she didn't know is that every prayer was being woven into a net that would eventually catch the child when he hit the deepest pit. And when that day came, when his soul finally broke open, the very first word he spoke was Jesus. Not because he was religious, but because her prayers had become the language of his spirit, even while his mind lived in rebellion. Your testimony is not far from hers. The ones you carry in your heart, your son, your daughter, your spouse, your grandchild, your friend, they are not drifting away from God. They are drifting toward the point where God will meet them. Heaven is not watching idly while they wander. Heaven is guiding, heaven is orchestrating, heaven is ensuring the right conversation, the right crisis, the right encounter hits them at the right moment. Chosen one, listen carefully. The spiritual war over your prodigals is fierce because their destiny is fierce. The attacks on them have been violent because their calling is violent. The confusion that wrapped around their minds had one purpose: to silence the purpose written inside them. But the enemy forgot something: you exist. You, chosen one, are the breach breaker of your family line. You are the one who intercedes until chains break. You are the one who prays until heaven intervenes. You are the one who carries fire where their flame has gone dim, and your faith, even when trembling, has kept them alive spiritually. There are angels assigned to your prodigals. There are dreams pursuing them at night. There are memories of your words planted deep in their soul. There is conviction rising under their skin, even if they never show it. They don't know it yet, but they are already on their way back. And when they return, and they will return, you will understand why the battle over their life was so intense. You will see why the enemy tried so hard to drown them. You will see why your prayers had to be so relentless, because heaven is not just saving one person. Heaven is restoring an entire bloodline through you. Chosen one, your prodigals are coming home. Not someday, not maybe, not when they're older. Heaven is moving now. Cracks are forming in their rebellion now. Their heart is softening now. You are not praying for what God hasn't promised. You are praying for what God has already begun. And what comes next will redefine your entire understanding of restoration. Chosen one. Now we must speak about something sacred, something many overlook, yet heaven is highlighting it in bold letters over your life. Your age is not your decline, it is your coronation. The world has lied to you. Society has attempted to convince you that your value decreases with the passing of years, that your relevance fades, that your strength dwindles, that your time has passed. But heaven does not measure worth by youth. Heaven measures worth by wisdom, endurance, and spiritual maturity. And those anointed one are the very treasures you carry in abundance. Think of the giants of scripture and history. Moses did not step into leadership at 20, he stepped into destiny at 80. Abraham did not receive his promise. In his youth he received it when age made it impossible by human logic. Anna, the prophetess, was not influential because she was young. She was influential because she remained faithful long past the age the world considers useful. Heaven does not rush greatness. Heaven forges it over time. And you, anointed one, are not being retired. You are being refired. The world says, slow down. Heaven says, rise. The world says, sit down. Heaven says, step forward. The world says, you've done enough. Heaven says, you are needed now more than ever. Because the generation rising behind you is starving for the wisdom you carry. They have passion but lack depth. They have dreams but lack direction. They have energy but lack spiritual grounding. You are the missing piece. You are the steady voice. You are the unshakable one who teaches by presence more than words. Chosen one, do not underestimate what your endurance has created within you. Your faith tested, refined, proven, carries authority. When you pray, heaven leans closer. When you speak, darkness loses ground. When you intercede, chains break. When you show up, the atmosphere shifts. You have lived long enough to see how life can bend a person. Yet here you are, bent maybe, but never broken, pressed but never crushed, struck down but never destroyed. And herein lies the mystery heaven wants you to grasp. Your age is the weapon the enemy fears most, because the older you became, the more dangerous you became. You know how he works. You see through deception faster. You discern spirits quicker. You recognize traps instantly. He cannot trick you with the same childish games he uses on the inexperienced. You carry a holy intuition that pierces through lies. And the enemy knows you are too wise to manipulate and too seasoned to intimidate. There is someone right now who has tried to convince you that your time is over. Maybe society, maybe your workplace, maybe even your own thoughts. But hear this, your assignment did not end when you retired from a job. Your assignment ends when God calls you home. Until then, breath means purpose. This is why the enemy has attacked your body, your energy, your confidence. Not to destroy you, but to distract you, because he knows what heaven knows. You are stepping into the greatest spiritual assignment of your life. People will come to you for counsel. Younger believers will seek your guidance. Families will find safety in your prayers. Your voice will be a stabilizing sound in times of shaking. Chosen one. Now we must step into one of the deepest revelations of this entire journey. Everything you have endured, every tearing, every pruning, every lonely night, every unanswered question has been pointing toward one truth. You were not being weakened. You were being prepared for spiritual authority. Heaven has not shaped you to sit quietly on the sidelines. Heaven has shaped you to step into the battlefield with a mantle that carries weight in the unseen realm. Anointed one. This is where many fail the test. They think God trains warriors through comfort, applause, and clarity. But heaven trains warriors in silence, resistance, and contradiction. Not because God is cruel, but because battles are not won by the untested. You cannot lead if you have not survived. You cannot guide others through storms you have never walked through yourself. You cannot speak with authority until you have conquered the very darkness that once tried to suffocate you. Look back over your life. The moments you thought were your breaking were actually your making. The struggles that felt like punishment were actually spiritual training. Every difficult season sharpened something in you. Every heartbreak softened something in you. Every disappointment clarified something in you. Heaven was chiseling you piece by piece into someone the enemy fears. into someone the world needs, into someone heaven can trust with responsibility. Chosen one. Many ask God for influence, but they do not understand the cost. Influence in the spirit realm is not gained by talent, charm, or charisma. It is gained through consistency, through sacrifice, through obedience, through prayer, through suffering, through perseverance. You have walked through the very fires most people run from. That is why you carry a depth in your eyes that others cannot explain. That is why people feel peace around you without understanding why. That is why strangers open up to you. That is why children trust you. That is why darkness flees when you pray. What you call survival, heaven calls qualification. Think of Moses. He did not lead Israel because he was talented. He led because he survived exile, rejection, wilderness, and self-doubt. Think of Elijah. He did not call down fire because he was dramatic, but because he refused to bow when everyone else did. Think of Deborah. She did not become a judge because she wanted power. She became one because she carried clarity when the nation was spiritually blind. Heaven chooses those who can endure, those who refuse to break, those who keep standing when everything else falls. Anointed one. Heaven is inviting you into that same lineage, not the lineage of the comfortable, but the lineage of the consecrated. Not the lineage of the popular, but the lineage of the powerful. Not the lineage of the loud, but the lineage of the spiritually lethal. Your endurance is your evidence. And now heaven is asking you a question that will define everything that follows. Will you step out of survival and into leadership? Because survival was never the goal. Survival was merely the training ground. The final shaking that is coming upon the world will require voices that do not tremble, hearts that do not fold, and spirits that do not break. Heaven needs people who can stand in the gap, intercede with authority, and speak with clarity when others panic. Chosen one, that is why your journey has felt so heavy. You have been carrying a warrior's mantle without knowing it. You have been walking in a spiritual assignment before fully recognizing it. You have been doing the work of a leader even when you felt unqualified, unseen, or unprepared. You have prayed for people who never prayed for you. You have stood strong while others collapsed. You have comforted others while no one comforted you. You have carried burdens heaven never intended for the average heart. You have endured battles others never even saw. This is not coincidence. This is calling. There is someone in your neighborhood right now contemplating giving up. There is someone in your family drowning in addiction. There is someone in your circle silently asking God for a sign. And heaven knows your voice, your courage, your prayer might be the thing that saves them. This is the weight of being chosen. You were not selected for comfort, you were selected for impact. Your age, your experiences, your scars, your victories, your wisdom, all of it has come together to form the most dangerous version of you, a version that hell hoped you'd never become, a version heaven has waited years to unveil. You have authority now, not because you are perfect, but because you persevered, not because you never fell, but because you always got back up. That chosen one is what terrifies darkness. And heaven is asking you now, are you ready to step into your assignment? Not someday, not later, not when you feel prepared, now. Because what comes next, what heaven is about to release, will require every ounce of the spiritual strength you've gained from every battle you've survived. And you, anointed one, are ready. Chosen one. Now we arrive at the revelation many never reach, the truth that separates those who merely believe from those who become. Heaven is ushering you into the deepest shift of your journey, not the shaking of the world around you, but the shaking within you. This is the turning point, the holy crossroads where the anointed ones must choose between two kingdoms, the kingdom of control or the kingdom of surrender. This will not be an easy truth to hear, but it is a liberating one. You have fought long enough. You have carried weight long enough. You have tried to hold everything together long enough. Now, heaven is asking you to release the illusion that you were ever meant to control anything at all. Chosen one, listen deeply. The final step of your transformation is not striving harder, fighting fiercer, achieving more, or forcing what refuses to move. The final step is surrender. Not passive surrender, not defeat, not hopeless resignation, but holy surrender, the kind that turns your spirit into fire, the kind that shifts your life from effort to alignment, the kind that opens the door to supernatural intervention. For years you have been conditioned to believe that breakthrough comes from doing more, push harder, try more, fix everything, carry everyone, but heaven operates by different laws. Heaven waits not for your strength, but for your release. Heaven pours not into clenched fists, but open hands. Heaven moves not when you control, but when you yield. You have said before, I've given God everything, but heaven whispers back, not everything, not yet. You gave God your worship, but not your worry. You offered him your praise, but not your pain. You offered him your hope, but not your timeline. You surrendered your battles, but held tightly to your expectations. You trusted him with eternity, but not with tomorrow. You believed his promises, but feared his process. Chosen one, heaven is asking you to release what is killing your peace. Release what you cannot control. Release the fear that has followed you like a shadow. Release the pressure you put on yourself to carry burdens you were never designed to lift. Heaven is not calling you to collapse, but to let go so that you can finally rise. Let me share something deeply personal. There was a season when I prayed fervently, cried faithfully, pushed relentlessly, yet nothing shifted. Every door stayed shut. Every battle felt unwinnable. I could not understand why heaven was silent, until one night when exhaustion broke every part of me and I whispered not a prayer of power, not a declaration of faith, but a trembling three-word confession: I give up. And in that moment, not the moments of intensity, not the moments of shouting, not the moments of striving, but in the moment of surrender, I felt heaven move. Not because I was strong, but because I finally stopped blocking what God was trying to build. That night, I learned God cannot fill what is already full. Chosen one, this is your moment. Heaven is waiting for you to loosen your grip. Surrender is not losing control. It is returning control to the one who never loses. When you surrender, you become unshakable, not because storms disappear, but because you no longer depend on your own strength to survive them. Something supernatural happens when a chosen one surrenders. Anxiety loses its power. Fear breaks. Confusion clears. Pressure lifts. Peace rises like a flood. Clarity begins to form. You stop spiraling. You stop overthinking. You stop fighting battles that were never yours to fight. You finally breathe. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. Chosen one, heaven is transforming your heart. What once was hardened by disappointment is becoming tender again. What once was weighed down by fear is becoming light again. What once was guarded by caution is being opened by grace. Heaven is replacing your heart of stone with a heart that can feel again, hope again, believe again, trust again. But you must choose this path. You must surrender the timeline you built in your mind. You must surrender the image of how the story was supposed to go. You must surrender your attempts to control outcomes that only heaven can orchestrate. Breaking is not the end. Breaking is the birthing. Letting go is not falling. Letting go is flying. Releasing the old is not losing. It is making room for what heaven has prepared. Chosen one. You survived every battle, not because you were strong enough to endure, but because heaven was preparing you for this moment, the moment where surrender becomes your greatest strength. When you stop fighting the storm and lean into the hands of the one who commands it, you become unshakable. You become immovable. You become anchored. This is the holy paradox. The world shakes, but you will not. And heaven is watching now, waiting for your answer. Will you cling to control, or will you surrender into freedom? Will you hold the weight, or will you release it? Will you remain guarded, or will you let God rewrite your heart? Chosen one. It is time. You have been strong long enough. Now it is time to surrender. Chosen one. Now that your spirit has tasted the power of surrender, heaven is ready to reveal something deeper, something that will not only elevate your life, but will realign the entire trajectory of your destiny. You need to understand this with every fiber of your being. You are not walking this path alone. Every step you've taken, every prayer you've whispered, every battle you've survived, every tear you've cried, heaven has walked beside you. And right now, across nations, across languages, across generations, there are others just like you stepping into this same divine awakening. Chosen one, hear this clearly. You are being surrounded by those who match your mantle. Your people are coming. Your tribe is forming. Your spiritual family is rising. Men and women across the world are stepping into the same shaking, the same surrender, the same awakening. And though you may never meet them in person, your spirits are connected in the unseen realm. You are being woven into a spiritual army, a remnant designed for the final shaking, the final revival, the final awakening before everything shifts. And heaven says that time is coming. This is the season where you will no longer walk alone. This is the season where divine connections will locate you. This is the season where your circle will shrink but strengthen. This is the season where heaven assigns people to your life who carry spiritual substance, not spiritual shallowness. And yet there is another layer, a more profound truth. The same God who has walked beside you is also working within you. Heaven is not just around you. Heaven is being built inside you. This is why your thoughts have shifted. This is why your identity feels different. This is why your desires no longer match who you used to be. Heaven is reshaping your inner world so you can carry outer assignments. Take a moment and ask yourself, what would change in your life if you truly believed, not just hoped, not just wished, but believed that God is still writing your story, that your best chapters are not behind you, but ahead of you? That the shaking you see around you is not the end, but the beginning of something extraordinary, chosen one. This is not wishful thinking. This is not emotional comfort. This is spiritual reality. Heaven is aligning things in your favor. Heaven is placing you among people who will fan your flame, not extinguish it. Heaven is aligning you with others who carry the same spiritual DNA. Heaven is forming a remnant, a collective of chosen individuals who will rise in the midst of global shaking, carrying light into darkness and direction into confusion. And you are part of it. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are not alone. Chosen one. Heaven is forming your tribe. Heaven is aligning your destiny. Heaven is strengthening your spirit through the presence of those who carry the same fire. And the next step on your journey will require a part of the divine alignment, because the final revelation is about to unfold. Chosen one, you have reached the place where everything comes together. Everything heaven has whispered, everything you have endured, everything that has been breaking, shifting, shaking, stretching, and awakening inside you, it all converges here in this sacred space where your spirit finally begins to understand what your battles have been preparing you for. The world is shaking, yes. The systems around you are collapsing, yes, but nothing unfolding around you is meant to destroy you. Everything is meant to reveal you. From the beginning of your journey, heaven has been shaping you in ways you did not recognize. You thought you were surviving random storms, but you were surviving spiritual training. You thought you were navigating emotional valleys, but you were walking through prophetic preparation. You thought people were leaving because something was wrong with you, but heaven was removing anyone who could not handle the mantle that rests on your life. That separation was never rejection, it was protection. The isolation was not punishment, it was consecration. Heaven hid you because what you carry cannot be diluted by the wrong company. And as the world grew darker, your spirit grew brighter. While others drifted into confusion, something inside you sharpened. While many became numb to spiritual reality, your discernment intensified. You felt things before they happened. You sensed shifts long before they manifested. Your heart became restless in environments where compromise was normal. Your very presence exposed the lukewarmness in others. That's because the anointing on your life was growing too heavy for shallow spaces. Your spirit was being tuned for a higher frequency, a deeper purpose, a greater calling. Then came the surrender, the holy breaking. The moment heaven places in every chosen one's journey, the moment when strength isn't enough anymore, when understanding isn't enough, when routine faith isn't enough. The place where trying harder no longer works and holding on only drains you. That is when heaven softly asks the question that changes everything. Are you willing to surrender, not partially? Not conditionally, fully. Chosen. One surrender is not the moment of weakness, it is the moment of unlocking. Heaven cannot pour new wine into a vessel that refuses to release the old. Heaven cannot give new direction to a heart that is clinging to its own plans. Heaven cannot build destiny on the foundation of fear, control, or exhaustion. So heaven brings you into that sacred breaking point, not to crush you, but to open you, not to punish you, but to free you, not to weaken you, but to transform you. And now you know the truth. The final step of your transformation is not striving, but yielding, not controlling, but releasing, not fighting, but trusting, not accumulating strength, but letting God be your strength. When you release what you cannot carry, heaven carries you. When you let go of what hurts, heaven heals you. When you surrender your timeline, heaven accelerates your destiny. When you stop trying to survive, you finally begin to rise. And in your rising, something miraculous happens. You realize that your journey was never isolated. Across nations, across cultures, across generations, there are others, a hidden remnant, walking this same path. Heaven has been awakening a family of fire bearers, a generation of spiritually aligned warriors who carry the same hunger, the same depth, the same spiritual DNA. These are your people, your tribe. Heaven has begun aligning you with those who match your anointing, those who pray with depth, those who listen with discernment, those whose spirits sharpen yours. The season of walking alone is ending. You are stepping into a chapter marked by divine alignment, where heaven handpicks the relationships that will walk beside you. But the greatest revelation is this: heaven has been preparing you for leadership, for authority, for impact. Not leadership measured by titles, but by spiritual weight. Not authority measured by position, but by presence. The battles you survived qualify you. The tears you shed anoint you. The wisdom you gained crowns you. Your endurance testifies that you were chosen for something greater than the ordinary paths others take. Heaven places mantles on the faithful, not the comfortable, on the proven, not the popular, on the surrendered, not the self-sufficient. And now heaven is asking you the question that will define the rest of your life. Will you rise? Will you step into the assignment that has been forming beneath the surface of your struggles? Will you accept the mantle that was shaped by every hardship you endured? Will you walk forward, not in your own strength, but in the strength of the one who carried you through? Will you allow heaven to use your voice, your story, your discernment, your scars, your wisdom, your prayers to shift the atmosphere in the lives of others? Chosen one, heaven is not waiting on your perfection. Heaven is waiting on your yes. Not a loud yes, not a confident yes, not a fearless yes, simply a willing one. Because the moment you release your yes into the atmosphere, heaven releases what has been held back for you. Doors swing open, purpose activates, destiny aligns, provision flows, peace settles, wisdom expands, authority awakens. You become unshakable, not because the world becomes stable, but because your spirit becomes anchored. This final shaking you see is not your destruction, it is your revelation. You are not falling apart, you are being unveiled. Your life is not ending, it is beginning in a way it never has before. Your spirit is not weakening, it is ascending. This is the hour heaven has been preparing you for. This is the season where what was hidden becomes seen, where what was dormant becomes active, where what was painful becomes powerful, where what was burden becomes mantle. Chosen one, lift your head, open your hands, breathe deeply, release control, embrace surrender, step forward in faith. Heaven is moving. Heaven is aligning. Heaven is opening. Heaven is calling. And now the only words left for your spirit to speak are the ones heaven has been waiting for. I rise, chosen one. As we come to the close of this sacred moment, breathe in deeply and let your spirit recognize what heaven has already begun. You did not watch this by accident. You were led here, drawn here, aligned here, because this is your Kairos moment, the exact point in time when heaven leans close and destiny opens its hand. Anointed one, hear this with your spirit. The shaking around you is not the sign of your ending. It is the sound of your breakthrough being delivered. The final step has already been set in motion. What God is transferring into your life, into your home, into your spirit, is not future tense. It is happening now. Something has shifted. Something has unlocked. Something has begun that cannot be undone by fear, darkness, or delay. Chosen one, may the blessing of clarity rest upon you. May the mantle of surrender strengthen you. May the oil of peace cover every anxious place in your soul. May the fire of boldness rise within you as you step into what heaven has assigned. And may you walk forward, knowing that the God who called you is the same God who carries you. If this word stirred your spirit, take a moment to honor what heaven is doing. Speak in the comments what God awakened in you today. And if you desire to journey deeper with a community of believers who rise when the world trembles, you are welcome here. Until we meet again, chosen one, stay surrendered, stay aligned, stay expectant. The transfer is in motion. Your steps are ordered, and your story is far from finished. You are chosen.